Hi everybody, this is Dr. Michael Shearer. In this training video, we're going to explore the copy denture function in exocad, especially as applied to LOCATOR FIXED, and how we utilize this incredible feature of this software to go ahead and turn your monolithic prosthesis that's been produced in anatomic Pontics mode in exocad into a printable two-arch restoration. What do I mean by that? So if we were to use just the standard copy denture, or pardon me, the standard anatomic Pontics wax up mode, you'd end up with a prosthesis that would look like this. It'd be a monolithic, one piece, either zirconia, printed, or milled restoration that we'd have to cut back, put some pink gingiva on, etc. Very cool, very strong, very tough. But if you want to create a prosthesis that's got a separate 3D printed pink base with a segmented tooth arch that you print the pink version, then you print the tooth color version, and in your lab or your assistants, you glue the parts together, it'll print a natural, very streamlined two-piece prosthesis. How do I do that? Now, there's two ways to do it. You can either use the dentures module within exocad to produce it that way, but if you've invested a lot of time into making this monolithic prosthesis, like case in point, I'm taking a reference denture, I've 3D scanned this patient's denture. I now have fabricated my try-in prosthesis, and the patient's been wearing this try-in for, I don't know, a month, something of that nature. I take this and you put it on the arch, you pick up your LOCATOR fixed housings, go ahead, give it a try, you enjoy it, you try it, and then all of a sudden, the patient comes back in and they go, "Doc, I love it. Can you make it permanent?" You go, "I got this." Or, "Doc, hey, I would love to have something that's a little bit more natural." "No problem. I'm going to take you from this into something else as well." Again, just some different examples of why you would want to use this workflow, but our ultimate goal is we're going to go ahead and create in this from our original monolithic design into a two-piece printable or millable prosthesis. Let's go ahead and jump right in. In our exocad software, we're going to go ahead and open up our exocad software, and I brought up my existing patient that we've gone ahead and we've made an anatomic Pontic design. So if I bring up the file, here's what it looks like. Here's my monolithic anatomic Pontic design as I've shown in other training videos on my channel. If you take a look at this, this is something that's very streamlined to print or mill, but then the question is how do I convert this into a segmented tooth arch and denture base? Well, historically, it's been a little bit more challenging than it is now, and that's a good thing because now it's super straightforward. I open up exocad, click the New button, and I'm going to go ahead and define a client. My name, technician me, and Zest Education. This will be copy denture two-piece from anatomic Pontics demo. That's just my note to myself. And what I need to do is tell the software what I'm going to do. So I'm going to bring up that STL file that's right in here. And just for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and drop it into a folder on my desktop. So bring it right here. Exocad sounds good. Let's go ahead and do exocad copy denture scan. And then just dump it into that folder. So literally I've just copied from the exocad folder into this folder. So my original was right here. This is what I showed in exocad, how to get there. If you get lost, pull up your load function and find it on your previous design file. And I just copied that into a folder on my desktop. Now I'm going to open up that folder, exocad copy denture, and inspect my STL file. Here's my STL file. I've got tooth number 18 through 31, just like I showed in previous examples. No problem. So in exocad, I need to tell the software I'm now going to be doing a copy denture from 18 to 31. So I start out by clicking tooth number 18. I come over here to full denture and click that button and tell the software I'm going to be either milling, printing. In this particular case, let's assume that we're going to print. So I'm going to print the base and teeth. And once I click on print base and teeth, it will give me the option of doing a copy denture. So in this particular case, we're going to do a copy denture, and I don't really have a bite rim scan, so I'm going to uncheck that. But I am going to go ahead and say yes to copy denture, because when I do that, it opens up this little button here that says 360 denture scan. And that's the one I want to make sure is checked right in here. So this is set up properly, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this just as is. You can define all of these things in here, but the cool part about exocad is you don't need to do that. So I just click the OK button, 360, full denture, print, and copy denture, OK. Hold the Shift key down on my keyboard. I'm going to click over to tooth number 31. And in exocad, if I wanted to make a one-piece segmented tooth arch, I make sure all of these little green buttons are on. But every now and then I like to do quadrants. So if you want to go ahead and do quadrants where I have tooth number 18, 19, 20, and 21 as one piece, 28 through 31 as piece number 2, and then tooth number 22 to 27 as piece number 3, that's how I would set it up. I would just turn these little blue or these green orbs on or off. But since I want to go ahead and do a 3D printed arch of one set of teeth and one base, I'm going to leave my work order just as is right in here. One stone model only. I really don't even need an antagonist, but I think sometimes it will ask me for the antagonist. No big deal. Hit the save button. I'm now ready to go ahead and do my design. So this is your proper work order function set up for copy denture for printing a copy of my locator fixed prosthesis. Now I'm going to left click the design file to go ahead and open this up to go ahead and tell the software we're now ready to go ahead and design my locator fixed copy denture function. Once the software opens up, I'm going to navigate to my folder on my desktop, which is my exocad copy denture scan, and pull in that file, which is the 360 scan of that monolithic design. Click the OK button, and now I'm ready to move forward. Make this big. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm at the proper orientation, right, just like so. Hit the next button. I want to be right down the long axis of the occlusal. Now, do I need to adjust anything in here? Nope. Hit the next button. And now in the exocad software, it usually begins by finding the gingival margin first. And on locator fixed prosthetics, it usually doesn't get this right, and that's okay because I'm just going to clear it off and do it manually. So I click the clear button, and now I'm going to just do an outline all the way around, essentially the quote-unquote borders, even though there's no borders just because it's a fixed prosthesis, but this is what I want it to look like. And then double click and inspect from a few different angles. Perfect. And hit the next button. And what it's going to do is pretty cool what this software does. It builds this quickie little model based upon that scan. So I'll turn that on and off so you can kind of see it. It's pretty cool. So I'll come back to that because you'll see it a little bit more often. Now at this point, we're ready to go ahead and define the teeth. So usually I can hit it just by a single click by clicking in the central fossa of the posterior teeth. It says tooth number 18. It outlines just like so. Perfect. Click the center of tooth number 19. If something needs to be adjusted, I'll show you as an example when we get to the last tooth, unless it does it for some of the others. There we go. Usually when you use the anatomic pontics functionality, it usually knows exactly where the margins of these teeth are. So choose the incisal edge. The incisal edge just by left clicking. I'm just following the prompts in the software. It's asking for tooth number 24. Here's tooth number 24. Here's number 25. And I usually leave the path of insertion for exocad to calculate. So probably 8 to 9 times out of 10, defaults will usually take you most of the distance for this workflow. Finding the center right in there, finding the center right in here. Good. Finding the center. And then tooth number 31. Great. Now it looks like it got it all nice and default. So what happens now is if something doesn't look good, I can come in here and tell the software, here's my orientation, or wipe it away using exocad tools. But right in there is what we want to see. Hit the apply button, and usually that fixes it. If not, let's figure out what's overlapping right in here. And then turn my brush size on. It's like exocad knew that I wanted to wait till tooth number 31. Let me hit apply, see what happens. And then it fixed it. Great. So you can see here, you can use the tooling function. Everything here works. Oh, let me just go ahead and Clear my long axis. And let me go ahead and do this one. Try that with a slightly different orientation. And then that found it. Great. So you sometimes toggle back and forth and it will nail it. Perfect. Now we want to make sure each one of these is labeled a number and a color to give us an idea of what we need to do. Then hit the next button. And the calculation will automatically go ahead and figure these things out for you. It makes it so easy, everybody. Now at this point, we're just going to let the software think while it goes through the calculation. And then it also builds a separate set of teeth and bases. You see right in here, overall, that looks pretty good. And then just as a good measure, I do like to kind of come in here and verify, does this look good? Here's my chain mode. If I wanted to go ahead and use my chain mode, I'm going to leave all of this as default unless I see something that's glaring error. Hit the next button. Because now here's where I want to spend a little bit of time verifying that I don't have any areas of contact. Like right in here, I see there's a little bit of some poking through where the scan body geometry is sticking through. So anywhere that I see the intersections, I want to either sculpt it or do an automatic. So like right in here, I can click on the free, adapt, and then go to the proximal, double check that my proximal. And then right in here, the anatomic, let's go ahead and cut all intersections. No problem. Attachment, everything here looks pretty good. Just for good measure, I like to go ahead and manually sculpt these away from the intersected areas. So if you see any of that darker color sticking through, I'm just going to go ahead and bring my push and paint tool right in here, shrink that away. I find it works better, everybody. So I'm just going to get rid of that from my scans, and that way it doesn't get hung up. Doesn't change the aesthetics of it. It's still pretty much exactly the same denture. Verify that nothing has changed. Great, hit the next button. Now it's going to ask for the undercut. Now, since I have scan body geometry in here, I typically don't want to have any offset. So I hit 0 for this offset button, and then I click the apply button. And I don't want to have any of this blocked out because I've already spent the time and energy to block it out in my other software. So I can make sure that the offset's set to 0, undercuts right in here, and get rid of the smoothing. Let me do that one more time. I don't want to change the intaglio of this at all. Click on freeforming, and then I want to get rid of any of that block out that it's doing right in here. I want to get rid of any of that block out around my scan body geometry. And I don't think that there's any block out in there, but it's a good idea. Just maybe it's my compulsion. I'm just going to do this right in here, using my shift key down to make sure I'm going to add remove to make sure I remove any of that block out. And verifying it from underneath here. And that looks pretty good. Now I hit the next button. And now it's going to calculate connectors. Now, since I'm going to be making a printable arch, I do need connectors here, or else I'm going to be printing individual teeth. So I turn off my denture-based parts a little bit, turn off my denture duplicates, simplification, so I can see where my arch is. And all of these connectors, I usually kind of move them around manually just to make sure that they're not interfering with the aesthetics or the position of the tooth. And then usually that fixes the position of them. So then that way they're not interfering, like right in here or like right in there. Perfect. And then that's a little bit heavy right in there, a little bit heavy. Perfect. I don't want to be in the aesthetic zone. Overall, that looks good. Good. This one I don't like. Let me bring that a little bit more to the lingual. That's better. Good. Okay, and a little bit more lingual right here as well. Cool. All right, I'm going to hit the next button. That's now been applied. And now I can go ahead and double check that I have the correct base. Now, usually if it's a copy denture function, I don't want to do too much here, but if you wanted to just smooth it out just a little bit, like it's a little bit rough, Or maybe I wanted to go ahead and make sure that I've got 2 millimeters of thickness. I can set this number to 2, and then it will tell me, oh gosh, you don't have 2 millimeters of thickness. Let me just thicken that up to get to 2 millimeters right here, everybody. So, and then right in there, it's a good safety gap and measure to make sure that you've got 2 millimeters of thickness. Like if you're going to follow the Zest white paper guidelines, I want to make sure that I have the proper functions of the thickness of my prosthesis to ensure strength of my zirconia, my PMMA prosthesis, etc. And it doesn't really change the aesthetics that much of my restoration. But I can see here overall that looks pretty good. Thicken up my interproximals just a touch, and then smooth that out just a little bit back here. Smooth it out just a little bit, but overall that looks pretty good. I know it's sticking out a little bit, but yeah, my implant placement was a little bit buckle over in here. So y'all, I chose one of my realistic cases, not one of my perfect cases. So this is a realistic case of where the implant abutment is. All right, hit the next button. And now it's going to go through the calculation. What settings do I set on here to verify that I've got the correct gap space between them? A lot of this is just based upon experience, everybody. So if I'm 3D printing an arch, typically I want 0.3 up to 0.5 millimeter gap distance between where the teeth and the base are. Because like a milling machine, it needs a burr to go into all these little pockets, and sometimes it can get lost along the way. But I found from experience, usually most printers, 0.3 millimeters pretty ideal. In a milling machine, 0.3 to 0.5 is also ideal, depending upon your milling machine and your 3D printer. Now, typically I want at least 0.5 millimeters of space underneath my restoration. And then I typically set the same pocket gap between anterior and posterior. So if I choose 0.5, I do it for both the anterior and posterior. And then also right in here, what I don't necessarily want to do is block out any tooth pocket undercuts if I'm 3D printing. If I am milling, I do want to block out any tooth pocket undercuts, all right? Just because of the milling machine. You can see here, I can also choose milling specific functions, such as considering the base tool diameter. I can click that, and until I have a tool diameter of 1 millimeter, that would be what I would do here, et cetera, et cetera. So the reality is that I'm going to leave most of this as default. That should be 4. Okay, now since I'm 3D printing, I'm going to leave all of that as default, and now just go ahead and click the apply button. Let the computer calculate, because now this creates that ideal space where that just slides right into place. And I haven't really done much post-processing on here. You can even see here I still have some supports on the edge of my 3D printed object. And this I printed on my Asiga 3D printer. However, it just depends upon what printer you have, because I've got this one right here I printed on my Sprint Ray printer. Very similar. I've got very little adjustments I made on here. Still some supports are on there. It just drops right into place. So let the computer think, and we'll go ahead and then pick back up once it's done. Now my computer's done. I've created those pockets all the way around my prosthesis very effortlessly. And I'll go ahead and take a look at where my denture base is. Here's my denture teeth. Here's my denture base. So if I turn off my anatomic shapes, that'll give me a little bit of a preview of what my pockets here look like. So I'm not there yet, so don't get too caught up on how this looks, but this is the general look of what it should look like. Now click the next button. Now this is really where the magic occurs, when it merges everything together. So it's going to go ahead and create your final printable or millable restorations and STL files from this particular stage where it cleans everything up. So here's my finished files. Now I'll go ahead and take a look at these. Overall, this does look pretty good, everybody. Taking a look at my prosthesis design. And now I have merged parts, which is the teeth. And then here is the denture base adapted part. And then here is just the merged part. This is the tooth arch segmented out. And then my denture base segmented out. And if I look and I click on the Saved Files button right here under the wizard, double click this, I'll go ahead and see here I've got my 2 STL files. Here is my bridge. And then here's my denture base. bringing those into Mesh Mixer. I'll bring them into Mesh Mixer just to go ahead and inspect them. A lot of times exocad will keep them at the proper orientation as well. So I'll just drop both of those files into Mesh Mixer, and we'll be able to see here probably at the same orientation. There we go. Here's my two files. This one ready for printing in a tooth-colored material, and this one ready for printing in a pink base material. Once you're done with the file, you can go ahead and click the I'm done function, or you can access your files at any point using that save files, or if I click on next, it'll say I'm done. It'll save the scene with all the details right in here. And then you'll be able to notice once you come back to your database manager that you can access your files at any given point by clicking on Open and Explore. It'll open to that folder right there on your desktop or wherever it is in your computer. And that's it, everybody. So that's the copy denture function in exocad that allows me to go ahead and copy denture over my anatomic pontics design to create a very nice 3D printable segmented tooth arch. And this can be done with dentures, it can be done with overdentures, or like I've shown in this video, a locator fixed prosthesis. I can now take that to my 3D printer, print the pink, print the tooth colored material, glue the two together, and now I've got a prosthesis that's now ready to go ahead and be delivered in the patient's mouth. Very nice, very clean. Do a chairside pickup of those locator fixed housings, and now I'm creating a very aesthetic restoration in no time. I hope this training video has been informative. This is Dr. Michael Shearer on exocad copy denture design for locator fixed. Check out some of my other videos on my YouTube channel and some of our other educational resources at zestent.com.